Hey everybody. So originally I was going to do a video on cleaning out your front load washer. And I just wanted to see, using a cleaner tablet, how dirty the water was going to come out of there. But now I've run into some snags. The control board is shot in this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around that. I've unplugged it, shut off the water, unhooked the drain line and everything. So I'm still going to take this machine apart, and we're going to see firsthand what it looks like inside of there. So it's going to be a huge take it apart kind of video, but yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the first things we can do to totally tear this thing apart is to slide out the soap dispenser. So there's a little tab right here. If you push that tab down, you can pull that dispenser out. And you can clean out all the pieces in here. They all come apart or come out. These will all come out. So you can clean inside of here. Every one of these is different for every washer, but most of the time, most of this stuff will come out. Next, we're going to take off this door boot. So I like to use a little pick for it. You have to be careful when you're doing that, because if you're going to be still using the door boot, you don't want to poke a hole in it. So what I do is I feel around, and you'll see there's this little spring right here, and it sticks out a little more than anywhere else around here. So once you get on that spring, you can just kind of work that around and pull off the outer ring of your door boot. So if you're changing the door boot, that's the first step you'd want to do. Then this just comes off. It just pushes into place. Usually I just push this back. Sometimes there'll be a little hose, or two hoses, or three hoses, or a light hooked up here. So you can disconnect that. The hose usually is on there fairly tight. So usually you got to pull it pretty good. Okay, once we get that pushed into there, we're going to take off this console and this front panel so we can see everything inside of here a little better. Okay, so there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. If you have a bad door switch, this is basically what you'd have to do. Is it's easiest to pull back this boot, take off that outer ring, undo these two screws, make sure the machine is unplugged, because there's a lot of electrical that runs to the back of the switch, and we don't want to get electrocuted. So once you get those two screws undone, this whole assembly will be able to slide out enough that you can undo the wiring. There's either going to be one or two electrical connectors that are just plug-in electrical connectors. It's not too hard to get them out, but this one's getting a little sticky. I think this machine has never been apart or anything, so everything is really stuck together. So yeah, once we get that wiring connection out of there, that's your switch. So if you need to change your door lock, because this little button can break, this little latch in here can bust, this is basically how you do that. Now, obviously, you just reverse it put the new one in here, connect the wiring, get the two screws, and you're done. So now we can take off this and the console. Watch the door no longer stays shut because that lid lock is out of there. So just so it doesn't swing out and hit you. Okay, so we're at the top of the machine here. So there'll be 4 or 5 screws across the top. And I'm just using my drill just for speed. You don't have to do that. You can just use a normal screwdriver. So we'll undo those. There's also this screw that holds on this soap dispenser assembly. It's easier to undo that and slide this assembly back so you can get this console off. We'll flip this forward, and there's going to be a whole bunch of wires that connect to this front board. So we're just going to disconnect those wires. Once again, make sure that you've already unplugged the machine. Don't want anybody getting zapped. So we're just going to undo all these connectors to the board and move this console out of the way. Okay, so that's it. Console comes out. That's your main board. Yeah, not much you can really say about that, but if you ever need to change your main board up to this point, that's how you get that out. So there's 4 screws across the front of this console, or the front panel. Now, everything is kind of loose, but it's got these little tabs here that are going to hold it on. Okay, so you can take this plastic cover off of here. Sometimes there's a screw inside holding it on, but usually it's just these little tabs that are on the side here. If your washing machine is leaking or something like that, I usually take this off just so I can see inside the machine a little better. So you just pull those and do a little wiggle, and that'll come out. So that just comes off. Now we can see clearly that they put another screw down there just for the fun of it, I'm sure. So take that one off. Now, that is absolutely the last one before we pull this panel off. So we can get that out of the way and we'll see what's in behind there. Okay, so we'll pop this panel off. All the screws are now out. So you just lift it back a little bit and that will come off. Okay, so since I'm tearing this whole thing apart, I may as well undo everything. Usually I don't ever take off this console bracket for anything really, but we're going to do that just to open it up for, we can get some more room. It's just a bunch of screws along the outside, and then you'll have to feed the wiring through like so. Check that back there. Put that aside. And I think we're going to take off the cement blocks too. Just okay, so my microphone died, so I'm going to have to do this on voiceover. So I took out these bolts from the cement blocks. They were 13 mils. I just used a wrench. So we can set those aside. They didn't necessarily have to come off for any reason besides trying to make the drum a little lighter. Once we get these out of the way, I'll be able to access that band for that front door boot a little easier. It's just going to be a Phillips screw, but now that it's all open, it'll be quite easy. Also, if you have any banging in your machine, you can also check to make sure that these bolts that I've just taken off are tight, because if they rattle, it'll make quite a banging sound in spin. So this right here is the screw I was talking about. We'll undo this band. It's kind of nice that I have a drill on this, because usually I do this with a just a ratchet, but we'll undo it and get that out of the way.
So sometimes it doesn't release like it's supposed to. So I had to pry it just a little bit here just to get that spring to open, I guess. Yeah, it wasn't opening very well, so I just pried that off there. You can do that as long as it's loose enough, and you can pull that whole thing off there. And that is what that looks like. See, it's just a Phillips there. So then we could take the boot off, which is very easy. It just pulls back. It sits in a little recess all the way around, but when you put this boot on, you have to make sure that it's on the right way. So there'll either be a marking that says top or a marking that says bottom. If there isn't on a boot, which is very rare for there not to be, what you'll want to do is line up these little pieces right here, which are drain back holes, with the drain back holes that are on the tub. Get it as close as you possibly can, and then it will actually drain back that water that sits in that front door root. Okay, so we got the drain pump here. This is your little filter. You spin out this filter, and you're supposed to clean these out usually about twice a year. It depends on how much washing you're actually doing in these things and what kind of person you are, whether you empty pockets a lot. But yeah, I would drain that out every 6 months. If 6 months isn't enough, then do it every 3 months. That's fine. But you'll have to deal with quite a bit of water when you spin that filter off, so be ready with some towels. Okay, so we just take this hose off the top of the pump, and we can tuck that up. Those clamps are pretty easy to pull off with just your hand. There's 3 different hoses that go to this thing, not including the little drain tube in the front there, but we can pull off these other hoses when we get in here a little bit tighter, I guess. We're going to pull off these 2 screws in the front of the pump. That just lets that pump come up and out of there, and then it actually makes it a little easier to pull those hoses off. So it's just got a little track that you have to push back on the pump, and then it just pops out. I'm taking the one hose off that goes to the tub. It's usually got quite a bit of water in it, even when you've drained out the filter in the front. So I actually had to go get some towels here because I wasn't expecting it to be quite that amount of water. Okay, so to get the clamp off the actual drain hose, it's a little bit stronger of a clamp, so I had to use a pair of pliers. It's kind of a little bit of a pain to get in there, but the clamp comes off pretty easy. When you pull that hose off, you'll probably get some more water, but just pull it off nice and slow, and maybe have a towel sitting under there just to catch any of that. Then we can pull this pump out and take this wiring off. The wiring just connects to the side of the motor. You can flip up this little piece here, get it out of the way, and then undo those two wires. So that's the pump connected to a housing. So the gray part right there has usually 3 screws in it holding it onto the housing. So you just undo those 3 screws and take the little gray part off, attach the new one on there, make sure it goes on the exact same as the old one came off, and that's how you change the pump on those. Okay, so we're going to remove this soap dispenser. There's a hose going from the bottom of the dispenser to the top of the tub. Usually the clamps aren't too strong, so you can usually take it off with your hand, but pulling the hose off of there, because the hose has been on there for quite a while, it can be a pain to pull off. So just kind of move it back and forth and it will come off. So we're just going to actually set this aside for now. But I want to show you inside of this soap dispenser. Okay, so as you can see here, all the mold that's building up inside of there. So you want to clean that out too. I would clean that out every couple months. If yours isn't getting that dirty, you know, you can always clean it out once a year or whatever. But that's something that should be cleaned, that nobody really knows that they should be cleaning it. Just use a long handled brush or something like that that you can get in there, and yeah, get that out of there, because all that water that's coming into the machine has to pass through that first. So your water coming in is already dirty going on to your clothes. It's not going to clean too well if it's already dirty. Okay, so now with the water valves, in order to get this soap dispenser out of the way, we got to take off these water valves. One side is your hot side, the other side is a cold side. So if you ever have any issues with your water valves, this is how we are going to take it off. So there's a couple screws in the back, and a hose or two in the front, depending on which water valve you're changing. So we'll swing this thing around and I'll show you. There it is. So each valve has two screws on the back. So if you're just changing the cold one, you can just undo these two screws and that double valve can come out. If you're just changing the hot one, you can just do the other side. It's very easy to do, but there's a filter in the end of these water valves. You can take a pair of pliers and pull that little filter out to clean out the screen that is in it. So if your water starts coming through slower than normal, you might want to check that first. The hoses also might have a screen in them, and usually machines don't really like when there's two screens, but yeah, you'll be able to tell with your machine whether it can handle it or not. But this whole assembly just pulls out of the way when you get those screws undone. Okay, so we're going to get to the motor here. We got to take off this back panel. It's just these two screws. Then you have to lift the panel up and then pull out the bottom of it and then slide the thing down. It's pretty easy. So to take this motor off, in most cases, because I'm in people's houses, I have to undo these with like a crescent wrench on that bolt that's in the center there. It's not the best way to do it, but because I don't have air tools or anything like that in people's houses, this is how I have to do it. Okay, so I got my crescent wrench here, so I just put it on the bolt that I have to take off. Hold the actual motor to keep it from spinning, and do watch the panel that's around it. It can be pretty sharp, so I just keep working it around. This one seems to be really on there, quite tight, and for fear of slipping off with my hand and banging the side of that thing, I just keep knocking it around, and eventually it'll come off. Okay, so I finally got it loose enough here that I can actually spin it with my hand. So yeah, just keep spinning, and we'll take that bolt out in the center. There is a lock washer and another washer on there, so don't lose those if you're just replacing the motor or something like that, because those have to go on there. So the motor is just a big magnet, pretty much is what it is. So it can be tough to pull it off because those magnets obviously are magnetized to that stator piece. So what you want to look for when you pull off this part of it is any cracks that might be in those magnets. If that happens, you got to change that whole piece. But I've seen that quite a few times, and it causes usually a lot of issues actually, just for a little crack. So now I'm gonna undo this stator piece. So I'll grab my drill for that, and we'll run that back out. I believe those are 10 mil. So at this point you can undo the wiring. These wires are a little bit tough to get to, so you could also undo the bolts for this stator and pull it out a little bit, and then you can actually get to the wires a little better. These screws are quite long, so that's why I'm definitely using the drill here, because I don't want to have to do this by hand. It would take way too long. So just undo these and then watch, because this whole piece is just gonna fall off unless we hold it on there. We don't want any of the wires to break or anything like that. So you can pull it back, and one of the wire connectors I could undo. One of them was a bit of a pain, so we'll just undo that from here, which it's still a bit of a pain. It's just got a little push-in piece, and then you pull it off. But yeah, fairly easy. Okay, so on this stator, there is this piece here. It's called a motor rotor position sensor. So what it does is that piece over there, that gray piece there, passes in front of the little sensor, and it can tell how fast the machine is spinning, and it needs to know exactly how fast it's spinning. So if for some reason your machine is jumping like this and just doing some weird things but not actually doing its spin or its agitate, that is probably the piece you need to change. And it's just a position sensor. There's a couple screws, a couple clips. This thing comes off, put the new one on, easy peasy. Okay, so what we're also going to need to remove is the shocks from the bottom of the tub. There is 4 shocks, and they're held on by a bolt on the top and bolt on the bottom of the actual shock. Shock is held to the tub and to the base, so we just have to undo that bolt and move the shock aside, because we don't want it to be connected when we pull out the tub. So we're just going to remove this vent tube. Just got to pull it off the top of the tub, and we can get that out of the way. So there's a clip on one side, a clip on the other side. Undo them both, and this tube will come off. So let's just not let pressure build up too much inside the tub. Get that out of the way. So we may as well remove this pressure switch hose. So this runs from the pressure switch to the bottom of the tub. So it's just put into these little clips along the side of the tub. We just have to get them out of there. I think there's 3 clips along the side there. You can pull it off the pressure switch, which it's got a little clamp on it, so you can move that clamp, or you can just pull it right off. Okay, this is where the hose comes down in the bottom. So it just connects to this plastic piece here. You can disconnect it from there. There is a clamp on this side too. I think we're going to pull this plastic piece off too, just to get it out of there, because I don't want the tub to end up falling on that piece and busting it off. So I'll just undo the screw there and get that out of the way also. So it's just a Phillips screw, and then it's got little clips that hold it into the bottom of the tub. The clips can be a pain in the butt to get out of there, but it just comes right off. Now there's one more clamp that connects this hose and the piece here to the bottom of the tub. Okay, so this is that hose disconnected from the bottom of the tub. It's just a clamp with a Phillips piece on it, but look inside of this tube. That's just gross. This is the tube that leads from the tub to the bottom of the drain pump, and there's going to be water sitting in this all the time because it's basically the lowest part of the whole system. So all of this stuff can get washed back into the tub when things get stirred up. But yeah, that's not so great looking. Okay, so next we're going to undo these shocks. So like I said, it's just a bolt, and then it slides off if you just pull forward on it. It's just on a little peg, and then you can move it off to the side. So there is 4 of these, 1 in each corner of the machine. I've already got the back 2 off, so this is the last one here to come off. Sometimes the tub is a little bit of a pain to get off there because it's all the weight's kind of resting on it. So you can just move that to the side. The tub will fall forward. Then we're going to have to undo the springs. Okay, so these springs are connected to the body of the whole washing machine. There's little clips that make sure that the springs aren't going to fall out. So you got to remove those little clips. You just pry them away, and it'll move out. So basically, I think I'm going to do one side at a time here. These tubs are usually quite heavy. That's why I'm kind of a little hesitant on grabbing it. But since I have everything off here, this goes really easily. It's surprisingly how light everything is once you have nothing left on it. So that's the spring there. That's the spring on the other side, and then this whole tub is free to come out. The tub's a little wider than the actual entrance to this piece here, so it's you have to spread it a little bit just to get that tub out. But we'll just set this on the floor, and this is the last piece. Okay, so now that we got the tub on the floor, we're going to split the tubs. So I'm going to undo all the screws that are around here. I believe there was 14. Yeah, we'll just undo all those and get the outer tub split apart so we can pull that inner tub out of there. Okay, all the bolts are taken out of there now, so I can just lift up on this outer plastic tub, and that'll split the 2 halves. So once all the bolts are out, it's fairly easy. It's pretty light, so we can just set that aside, and we'll take a look at this inner tub. It looks really clean actually inside the inner tub, so I kind of want to see the outside. Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. That tub is really pretty gross. It's I thought that was rust actually originally, but it's not. It's soap residue. It's dead skin cells. It's all the kind of stuff that you run through a washing machine. Some of it just sticks there. That will build up over the years and get actually a lot worse than this. This isn't terrible, but still, you're washing your clothes in that. So this is the back half of the outer tub, and it looks pretty gross too. There's a little bit of a different view of that inner tub. So you can see all that discoloration and stuff in there is actually dried on, just filth. Okay, so this is the back of the tub here. Yeah, that thing's not looking too good. This is what they call a spider. It tends to break a lot on LGs and Samsungs. So, yeah, it just looks horrible. Plus all the dirt's on the back there. It's no wonder why some people's clothes just won't come clean.
Okay, so thanks for watching, guys. So if you have to replace the door boot or the drain pump or anything that's on here, the motor, even the tub, I hope this gives you a good overview of what needs to happen to in order for that to take place. So yeah, there you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.